All right, so here's the deal. I haven't said anything about coronavirus, right? But I'm going to now. The media and the government, right, recruited you guys to be their army of bullies. And let me explain what I mean. Anybody who said, this probably isn't going to be that bad, I bet it's not that much worse than the flu, you guys all would scream at me and tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist. I just watch Alex Jones and I want grandma to die. I don't care if your immunodeficient child suffers and suffocates to death because I'm just a horrible piece of shit conspiracy theorist. You guys were recruited to be a bunch of bullies by the government and the media to put me in my place and ensure that I kept my mouth shut. And you know what? It worked. I haven't really said anything. But you know what? The people out there who did say something, who did openly say, this really is being overblown. You know, I said at times, it seems like it's going to be bad. Let's take it very seriously, but let's react appropriately. That's about as far as I went with it. And that's honestly probably how I felt. You know, like I did feel, I don't really know, I'm not an expert, so I have to listen to the experts to an extent, but at the same time, I also recognize that the experts have motives. The hospitals who say they have all these patients get paid a lot of money if they say they have a lot of coronavirus patients that have to go on respirators. Governments get a lot of money and a lot of power if they tell the federal government, hey, we have a lot of cases locally, everybody's dying from this thing. Have you guys actually heard that the actual numbers of deaths so far this year in most places have gone down, and the numbers of pneumonia and flu deaths have essentially gone to zero? There are essentially none, because everybody who normally dies of pneumonia or flu is now being referred to as a coronavirus death, even though there's no proof that they are. If they have been tested, it might have just been that they died from another disease but happened to have coronavirus, and if they weren't tested, they're being considered a coronavirus death purely because of the symptoms they had when they died. And that's what's happening all over the place. The government is admitting it. That's what they're actually using in order to determine who died from coronavirus as far as the numbers. So it's pretty obvious that the numbers aren't legitimate. We haven't had nearly as many deaths as they're claiming, and now that they're doing the antibodies tests, we're finding out that it's extremely unlikely that you even get sick from coronavirus, badly sick, and it's extraordinarily unlikely you end up in the hospital, and it's like monumentally unlikely that you die, right? If 15, 20, or 30% of the entire population has already had it, and most of those people didn't even know they had it, it's really not that bad of a disease. And realistically, we're going to reach herd immunity pretty quick. If we just open up the government, open up the economy, everything goes back to normal again, there are going to be people who are getting sick. Did you guys notice that the only reason they justified shutting down the entire economy was to, quote, flatten the curve? Constantly, all they would say, we have to flatten the curve, we have to flatten the curve. What was the reason for that? They had to stop us from overwhelming the hospitals. We couldn't allow the hospitals to become so overwhelmed like they did in Italy, where people were in the hallways dying because there wasn't a room or there wasn't an ICU bed for them, right? We've achieved that. We've now guaranteed we have enough rooms, we have enough beds, we have enough ventilators. Nobody in this country is not going to be able to get medical care. Nobody in this country is not going to be able to get a ventilator. We have successfully flattened the curve, and it's a non-issue. That's no longer an issue. So now what's the justification for keeping the economy closed? I'll tell you what it is. Number one, money and power. The longer this goes on and the more scared people are, the more they sit at home all day watching the news, which makes a shit ton of money for CNN and the rest of those media scumbags. And number two, the government gets more and more power, the more you're scared and you stay at home and do whatever they tell you to do. We have people that are calling the police to rat out their neighbors because they're getting too close to somebody else. They're violating social distancing, so the cops are getting called on them and they're getting ratted out by their neighbors. How pathetic is that? And on top of that, if you want to look at why they're not admitting it now, it's very simple. If they were to say right now, okay, we can open up the economy and go back, that would be essentially them admitting that they were wrong and it was all overblown from the beginning. So if they came out right now and they said, hey, if you're insinuating that we had motives and we wanted power and money and all that, that's a little bit of a conspiracy theory. In reality, we just didn't know any better. We don't have experience with this stuff. We're new to this. We're not like, Asian countries that are familiar with these types of things. We're inexperienced. We were very scared. We relayed the worst case scenario to you guys, and we were wrong. And luckily, it wasn't as bad as we thought. So let's open the economy and get back. And, we're sorry we kind of overblew this whole situation, but, we did it with the best intentions. If the government and the media actually admitted that, I would say, okay, they probably weren't being evil. They probably weren't doing this as a huge money and power grab. But they're not going to come out and apologize and say that. They're going to pretend like everything they did was justified, everything they continue to do is justified, because to come out now and admit that it's not that bad now would be them conceding that they overblew it from the beginning, and they're not going to do that. So they're going to keep pressuring us to maintain this closed economy and all that, when in reality, we can open up everything 100% right now, maintain social distancing, wear a mask, and wear gloves, and I guarantee you this is a non-issue. There's no way in hell that this is going to be a pandemic level issue if everybody's maintaining social distancing. Because are you going to go and shake somebody's hand? I'm not. If you see somebody on the street that you know, are you going to walk up and have a conversation with them 2 feet away without wearing a mask? Absolutely not. I'm going to wave to them from afar. I'm going to say, oh, I hope you're doing well. I hope your family's doing well. Good to see you. And walk away. I'm not getting close to them. I'm not going to have a conversation with them. And I'm certainly not shaking anybody's hand. This is not going to spread like wildfire and cause everybody to end up in the hospital and die. In reality, if we open the economy and go back to normal, we will end up just like Sweden, who's going to have herd immunity very, very soon. They didn't do anything. They didn't shut down shit. They even left schools open, and they're completely fine. They had a tiny surge that didn't even touch what we had. This whole thing is so insane, and the fact that you're not allowed to talk about it, because if you even suggest that this was overblown, you want everybody's grandma to be thrown to the wolves. Like, it's insane to suggest that I don't care about human life. What about the hundreds of millions of people around the world that the UN just said are going to die of starvation this year because of the world economy suffering from the US shutdown? What about the tens of millions of American children that are going to look to their parents and ask for food that their parents don't have? We're talking about families that you know, your neighbors, who are going to be living under a bridge and can't afford to feed their kids because they waited 6 hours online for a food pantry that ran out of food before they got to the front of the line to get a $30 bag of groceries. That's how bad it is. So, is it inconvenient to tell old people and sick people, hey, you guys should probably stay home and always wear gloves and masks for the next year or two because we really can't do anything to protect you? That's really not that bad if the alternative is, hey, let's have American children starving to death. This is insane. Wake the fuck up, you idiots.